Hello and welcome to the Deb Calvert channel on Bright Talk. I'm Deb Calvert. This is part 9 in a 12-month series for sales managers. We've been talking about all the people parts of the business and what they look like and the best practices when a sales manager is looking to be effective in both managing sales and in leading people. I encourage you to come back for next month's presentation. It's going to be just a little bit different. It will be about my favorite sales hacks. I do this every year. It's always one of the most popular presentations I do. And it's not the newest, latest, greatest, although there will be some of that, but it's mostly the newest, latest, greatest that I've personally tested and had others field test, and that I can tell you for sure will be a good value for you. I give away a lot of free ideas, and none of the recommendations I make are made because I am an affiliate marketer. In fact, I personally don't do any affiliate marketing. It just doesn't work with my business model, mainly because I don't trust myself, and I want to make sure that my recommendations are coming from a genuine place. Anyway, sign up for that when it's here on this very same channel. As I said, I'm Deb Calvert, and I want to tell you just a little bit about Bright Talk, and then so that you've got what you need to make your way successfully through this webinar. Bright Talk, for those who are new, has a lot of options for you. You can ask me questions, and I hope you do during the presentation. I'll answer them as they come. You can give me some feedback, and I hope you do that too at the end of the presentation. What you liked, what you'd like to see me doing differently. There are also attachments and links, and I try to load up some value in there. One of them are the slides from this presentation, just in case you want to print that out and take notes along the way. And one of the other attachments I hope you'll take me up on today is that you'll click on the LinkedIn link that I gave you so that we can stay connected. And if you have any questions after this presentation, that we have an easy way to be in touch with each other. I work with a lot of human resource directors and divisions and departments and folks, and I have some HR background myself. And I also work with a lot of salespeople, sales managers, and sales executives. And my entire career, I've always been in sales. So I blend those. I work with, in some organizations, both the HR and the sales folks, so that I can help them to develop better hiring, onboarding, retention, and performance management systems, all the people parts of the business to enhance what's happening for sales productivity. And I mention that because you might want to go backwards if you're thinking about this series, and if it's not just the onboarding, but you want the competencies for hiring salespeople, and you want some thoughts about training salespeople. Sessions that are right here on demand anytime you want them. For today's topic, I'm going to start at the end. Anytime you've gone through all the work of developing a competency model, and then you've hired people, and now you are bringing them into your organization and onboarding them, of course your intention is to retain them, to keep them long-term, and in sales to have them be as highly effective and productive as possible, as soon as possible. But I'm starting at the end. I want to talk for just a moment about the top reasons that people leave organizations. And by this way, the way this research, it's from Gallup, and it is not exclusive to any area. It is exactly the same whether it's sales or other areas of an organization. It's repeated over and over again. Well, retention is affected primarily by how people feel about the interaction they have with their manager. And it's the manager that they look to, including a sales manager, who's going to show them how to improve, how to do a better job, how to meet expectations, how to reach their sales goals, how to be able to meet those activity standards and those KPIs, whatever you're asking them to do. They're looking to you, the sales manager, to help them figure so that they can advance, whether that's up the career ladder or that they're making a little more commission each month. they're looking for ways to do better. And the second one goes hand in hand with this. They want to know how to be successful politically and professionally, and to continually grow in your organization. Goes right along with it, hand in hand. They want to feel supported by the manager. They want to know that you care and that you're on their side and that you're going to help them, but not just do the work for them. This isn't about lowering their goals, for example. They want to feel supported when it comes to learning how to develop so they can improve and advance. And last but not least, wrapping around all of those three very similar things, is that people, the fourth reason they leave is that they don't have a sense of belonging. They don't see how they fit on the team. They don't something bigger. The work doesn't have meaning for them. And you guessed it, they're looking, again, to the manager to provide that for them, to show them, to help them feel like there's that meaning and purpose and sense of belonging. Now, I know what you're saying. You're thinking right now, nope, when salespeople leave here, it's because they couldn't make enough money. They take a job where they can make more money. So I have to explain this research to you just a little bit deeper, because number 5 on the list, the 5th most common reason people give for leaving an organization, including a sales operation, the 5th reason is that they needed to make more money. See, what's going on when people give you their letter of resignation, or when they finish their exit interview up with HR, what they're saying at those times is, I took this job because I could make more money. But Gallup, when they do this research, they go to people who recently took a new job, and they ask them a little bit different question. They ask them, what initially caused you to go looking for that new job? The job where you ended up making more money. And the 5th most common reason people give is, I went looking for a job because I needed to make more money. More common than that, people are saying, well, I ended up going to look for a job because I didn't feel supported here. I went looking for a job and I found one that paid more money, but I started looking because I just couldn't figure out how to be successful here. I didn't have a sense of belonging here. They give these other reasons first, and making more money is a happy event that occurs. It's something that, of course, if they're going to make a move, they're also going to, think about that one where that's also an opportunity. But it's not the driving force that pushes them out, even with salespeople. And I say all of that because we need to be cognizant of it and prepared for it from the very beginning, right from the time when we start onboarding new sales professionals. I'm giving you a list here of the 7 most common mistakes. You might be making all of them, some of them. Maybe you're not making any of these, and if that's the case, give yourself a pat on the back. But let me explain to you why these are mistakes. Because I do understand, as a sales manager, you're working hard and you've got a lot on your plate, and if you've had an empty territory, you've got some real revenue pressure. You need this new person with all this experience, hopefully, to be able to step right in and take it off your hands. But that's not a long-term strategy. That's not going to help you or the new person to be successful. Let me explain why. You see, one of the main reasons people leave is that they don't feel a sense of belonging. Some of these reasons are about helping them to integrate quickly with the team, to feel welcome, to feel ennobled, that's worthy and important, to feel like you want them not just for the fill the seat and churn out the revenue, but you want them to be there. And there's nothing worse. I've seen it happen too many times. There's nothing worse than walking in to your first day on a new job. You've had excitement all over the weekend. You were thinking about what you were going to say. You got a haircut. You took pains to make a good first impression on your boss primarily. And you show up on day one, ready, willing, eager to get started, lots of enthusiasm. There's nothing worse than walking into an office. You're early, so there's almost nobody else there. you're not sure where to sit, you don't know where to go. A busy coworker or colleague might give you a little bit of a greeting and a hello, but frankly, they don't know either what they're supposed to do with you. And if your manager's not there, it leaves a sour taste. If you have a vacation or a meeting or you simply aren't going to be there, delay the start time. It's that important. Have this person start when you can be there to meet them. They're working for you. They want to be on your team. They need to know that you want them to. Now, at the very beginning, at the onset, that first day or two, it's also not going to be ideal if you thrust this person immediately out into the field. No matter how much experience they have, even in your industry, no matter how many other people they know, this isn't about hit the ground running. That'll come. But this is about first know the ground that you're running on. How do we do business here? What are our expectations? Who are we as an organization? Set those expectations. Before you ask people to meet with your clients and misrepresent you, because they're just going to make it up if you don't tell them, give them some context. Hand in hand with that, it's not really fair to set a quota on the first day or week that they're in the office. You've had that position open. Something's been happening with that revenue distribution, that quota somewhere else. For the long term, keep that quota somewhere else. Keep it off the back of the new hire long enough. That might be a day, it might be a week. It really depends on what you sell and how complex it is. Keep it off their back long enough for them to learn about your products and about how you sell things in your organization and about how to process whatever it is that they sell. Let them meet the people that they're going to be relying on for handoffs and for backup. Let them acclimate enough to feel like they can represent you with confidence the way that you want to be represented. On day one, in addition to being there and having some things set up so that they can start getting acclimated, well, make sure it looks like you did some work. Make sure it looks like you were expecting them to arrive. They've got a desk, a chair, a computer, some business cards, some pens and paper laid out for them. Something. Maybe it's a lunch with the team that day. Something that says, we have been so excited for you to join us. Not, oh yeah, hey, the new guy showed up today. Yeah, what do we do with him? When you put somebody in training, and I hope you do, give your new hires some training, not just ride along with somebody else and pick it up through osmosis, but when you give them some training, don't make it product-only training. Make it training from the customer's perspective. How do our customers view us? What are the benefits to them? How do they tend to use our products and services? Let them know about some of the history of your company. What are the values of your organization? When they learn about your systems, put that in context too of how it serves the ultimate customer. Yes, you're entering information into the CRM. The reason we do that here is because, link it to your values, so that we can serve our customers in this way and connect those dots. It's not just an information dump. It's not just a pedal to the metal, full throttle, we're going to get in and out of this training as quick as possible. It's about people knowing how to be successful, developing a sense of connection and belonging. And although I know that this feels like bad news to you, I promise, it's proven, it's a fact, that when you spend more time with people, they will ramp up faster, they will be more effective, they will do better, and they'll stick around longer. But you have to invest that time and thought on the front end. Okay, so those are the cautions. Now let's talk about what's going on in the mind of the person being onboarded. Right? Think from their perspective. There are some things that they want to know. And if you answer these questions, you'll be answering some of their questions too. You want for them to be able to know before they ever walk in the front door when onboarding starts. Is it I come in at 8 and my formal onboarding begins at 9, and where do I go? And how long does that last? And who's doing it? Because you probably don't want to do all this yourself. HR could play a role, especially if they do this for other parts of the organization. Maybe the sales VP wants to meet all the new people. Maybe there are some other team members, the admin and support team, the production team where orders go after they're sold. All of these folks can help you to onboard the new hires. But it has to be a bit of a system. It can't be chaotic. It's got to be sensible. There have to be objectives for the new hire to learn in each place that they go. So here again, if you sketch this out, if you make a plan, it'll save you a ton of time in the long run. You'll be avoiding mistakes. You'll be giving the new hire the strongest shot at being more successful more quickly. Now, those are some of the tangibles. Then there are the intangibles. That would be things like your culture. Maybe you've never taken time to define your culture, but you have one. Culture in the workplace, it really just means how we do things around here. Your new hire wants to know that as much as they want to know anything else. Do people go to lunch together? Do people deck out at 2:30 and that's okay? Or do we all stay at our desk until 6 p.m., maybe later? Around here, when we are coming up on deadlines, is it an intense flurry of activity at the last minute, or do people work ahead? Or are the deadlines, are they really just suggestions? How do we do things around here? Once again, people are going to make it up unless you give them a role model and you set your expectations. Maybe you have a buddy or a mentor that you appoint who helps them to see and can answer their informal questions about how we do things around here. You're going to want to gather feedback about your onboarding program, and yes, it should be programmatic. You'll gather that and you'll refine it, and as you do, you're going to start to see that you've got measurable success. As you put those pieces in place, you'll notice that this new hire moved a little faster, seemed a little happier, stuck around a little longer than the last one. And as you refine and build it out, then 3 months from now, 6 months from now, 10 new hires from now, you'll have a system that really works. So track it as you go. Your onboarding needs to include 4 pieces, the 4 Cs of onboarding. So as you're onboarding your new sales hires, think about who is best equipped to teach them the bare bones. What are the bare bones they need to know in these 4 areas? First of all, what do they need to know about compliance with our corporate policies and with the expectations that are related to, how we do things, depending on what you sell. Certainly some industries are more compliance-driven than others. You might even have a training program that lasts for 3 months because there are so many rules and regulations and exams to pass and things that people need to know before they can go out into the field. Whatever they are, there's a compliance component. And if it's not related to the product you sell, well, it's at least related to your company policies. How do I earn vacation? How do I sign up for benefits? What happens when I need to take sick leave? Those are compliance-driven issues as well. So somebody needs to onboard your employee and help them understand those things. The second C is around clarification. This is mostly going to come from you, the sales manager. They're counting on you to set expectations, and those expectations are for how much work to do as well as how to do it. So this is where you will clarify, this is how we set goals, this is how we pay commission, this is how we measure activity. We want X% of your business to be new business development and X% to be from returning customers or from upsells. Whatever your expectations are, explain them thoroughly. Put them in writing. Be prepared to answer questions about them. Don't race through them. Don't just shoot out an email that says, oh, by the way, here's the commission plan. seek understanding. Make sure they understand it, not just received it. The third C is culture. And as vague as that sounds, it's really important. It's really what creates that sense of belonging. And it's what helps people to develop the instinct about what should I do in this situation, so they're not needing to constantly come to you with questions that to you will seem silly and basic. But they're not. They're not silly and basic. They come out of a place of trying to fit in. When people don't ask those silly basic questions and they've never been given the context, what they're doing is deciding based on what they've known from somewhere else. And if you allow that to happen, what happens to your culture is that it gets influenced by how people did things somewhere else, or it can become a free-for-all of people doing things in many different ways, and that's super confusing. Then it becomes even harder for people to onboard and to feel successful. And it's also tougher to manage. So it's your culture. You can control it by being clear about it. Last but not least, one of the other C's of onboarding is the connection between you and the employee, between that employee and all the other sales employees, the ones that are their peers that they are going to want to become friends with as well as have friendly competition with. It's a connection to places I need to go for information. When I hit a brick wall with credit and finance, who do I go to? When I need to accelerate something through production, who do I go to? When I have a question about my benefits, who can I call? They need all of those connections, and they need them soon so that they have a sense of belonging, so that they can become self-sufficient, and so they're not in your office every 5 minutes asking you some other question. Now, employees, they also do have some purpose that they're trying to get out of onboarding. It's not just about let me be as successful as I can be as soon as possible. Yes, that's important. They want that too. But they come in on day one, week one, month one with another set of agenda. They want to develop relationships. They want to find that fit. They want to prove themselves. They want to manage the first impression that they're making on each person they encounter, and eventually even on the customers that they encounter when they get introduced to them. So if you're thinking from their perspective, just remember that these are all elements of what's in their mind too. Now this next slide, I'm going to hit you with a lot of information. That's one of the reasons why I gave you the slides ahead of time here. You might feel like you want to download this one for later. But these are best practices. And they're all self-explanatory, so I'm not giving you an individual slide on every single one of them. But these are all best practices for onboarding. And every single one of these, when you think about them, think about what is your objective? And how long do I have? What's my timeline? And what's my role? Or what could be someone else's role? Who's responsible for all or part of this? So let me sort of walk you through the 4 items in purple that I just mentioned and how they work with each of the checkmarked items. Okay, so when it comes to the basics, prior to that first day that they're going to be in field with customers, that there are some basics that they need to know. They need to know about your products and your pricing and your processes enough to answer customer questions. And they need to know about your values so that they're selling in alignment with your corporate values. They're representing the company the way you want it to be represented. So it's those kinds of basics. As you think about those basics that they need to know, don't think about just an information checklist, because that will cause you to do an information dump and it will be meaningless. It'll just be factoids. So you're providing context. So when you provide that information, why are you providing it? What are your objectives? Why do you want people to know about your processes? You have reasons, you have objectives, because I don't want things to get bottlenecked, because I don't want them to make mistakes, because I want them to avoid this problem that seems to recur a lot with new people. Whatever it is, you have objectives. And when do they need to know that? Well, if I want them to be in field with customers 2 weeks from today, I guess that means my timeline is about 10 days from now because they need to know it before they get in field on that Monday after their first 10 days here. And who's going to teach this to them? Am I? Are there other people who could do it? Can we break out all this information into different roles? And how can I assign those responsibilities to other people? But you don't have to do all of it. You just have to figure out the framework for it. And that's true. What I just walked you through, that is true for every single bullet here. Some of them are a little bit more formal than others. Things like make the first day on the job special. Well, that might have some formal pieces like getting the desk and the desk accessories all in place. But maybe that's some informal pieces too. Is there a welcoming committee? Someone who wants to buy balloons and take the new person out to lunch every time there's a new person? It'll look different in every culture and in every organization. So these are things to decide. It doesn't have to be that. But you decide. And you'll decide because you'll be thinking about what do I want to achieve. And when you know what you want to achieve, you'll be able to build each one of these items out in a way that makes sense for you, in the right timeline, with the work distributed in the right way. Okay, now don't forget, you're going to be posting questions for me throughout this presentation. You don't have to save them for the end. And you're going to take one of the links in the attachments field and you're going to link in with me so you can be asking questions long term too. And one more reminder, if this seems like a lot to do and you feel like it's virtually impossible to do it on your own, then do call me, because here at People First Productivity Solutions, we help organizations develop these processes and put this in place so that it's easy to do and it's effective. You don't have to have trial and error. We can help you do it right. Okay, now the new person, one of the things that they want most of all is they want to know what you expect. They want to know that even before they take the job. That's why you put some of it into your job description. But in addition to what you put out there as the highlights in the job description, you're going to want to talk to them even more. Day 1, day 5, day 10, multiple times. Here's what we expect. We expect this because, and you'll have gotten some employee input, we expect it because this is what helps our salespeople to make their monthly quota. We expect this because our pipeline tends to have this kind of a trend to it, and we know that 3 months from now, you'll need to have made these new business development calls now, or at this cadence. And so you'll be explaining. You'll get some employee input, so it's not just you making it all up. You'll be telling people not only what to do, but why it matters to do it. They'll have context. That context helps them to make good decisions when you're not micromanaging or when you're not checking boxes and they're not brand new anymore. But especially at the beginning, how much do I need to do? Why do I need to do that much? How do I need to do it? Why do you want me to do it that way? You're trying to equip people to do things that will do both, that they'll be able to get both the right results and they'll be able to get them in the right way. And unless you give them all of that, you're rolling the dice, because people do things that they think are the right things to do, and without any context, they'll have other reasons doing it differently is okay, and they might even think it's better. So use your knowledge and your experience. Set these expectations completely, do it thoroughly, do it multiple times. Let's talk about training. So setting expectations and then training people, that's great, but there's something that often gets forgotten, especially when you're first training your new hires. But what I'm about to tell you applies to any kind of training that you ever do with your employees, even if it's just once a week in your meeting, you're doing a little 5-minute segment of training, it applies even there. What you're looking at is a graphic that's research-based, and it's all about sales training. This is true for other types of training, but I wanted to show you one that was very specific to sales training. And what it says essentially is that anytime you do training, there's an inherent risk. There's a risk. Because when you provide training, what you're looking for is that people are going to do better. They're going to perform at a higher level. They're going to be more productive. You certainly aren't looking for them to become less productive as a result of training. But I bet if you've been around sales for long, you might have seen that happen. And the reason why it happens is this. Sales training is only successful in increasing sales productivity. It's only successful when it's reinforced by the sales manager, not just by the sales trainer, not in some other way, but you, the sales manager, you have this very important role. It's absolutely critical that post-training, you're reinforcing the training. That means you have to have understood it. Maybe you even attended it, or at least you got an executive overview. You had some expectations that you set around it for behavior change. You didn't tell people after the training was over, you didn't say, okay, now let's get back to work, business as usual, because that's not reinforcement. That actually causes a lower level of productivity. It causes that lower curve versus the green one that you see at the top. The one that you're looking for is after the training event, that people are using what they've learned. They're trying some new things. That's hard. They're not giving up on those new things. They're getting your encouragement. They're getting your role play with them, whatever it takes, so that they master it and then they're able to do better because of it. I gave you an infographic in the attachments that takes this a little bit deeper, but this is such an important concept that I wanted to make sure and call it out individually here for all of your training, including with your new hires. The very best way to reinforce any training, I'm thinking like classroom training or even one-to-one training, the very best way to reinforce it is with coaching. And coaching for new hires does an incredible job of accelerating their effectiveness. Their ramp-up time will be shorter if you are both training them and coaching them. Let me just clarify in case you haven't seen previous webinars that I've done on what coaching really is in sales. You can go back and find those on this channel, but here's the short version. Coaching is not the same as managing, it's not the same as training, and it's not the same as mentoring. Coaches, it's an entirely different discipline. Coaches help people to learn and master something because they're as coaches, they're extracting information and they're promoting self-discovery. So what coaches do is they facilitate goal setting and they get people to buy into their own plan, the plan they create for themselves about how they're going to learn and develop and grow. Let me give you a contrast here. If you go on sales calls with your sales team members, you have two choices. On a sales call, you can be the sales manager / mentor. That means that you intercede, you jump in to save the sale if it's going awry. It means that you position yourself with the customer as the manager with a little bit more authority and the ability to give some leeway on, pricing or solving problems, whatever it might be. You have an active role in a sales call when you're the manager or the mentor. How to do something and hoping that they'll learn from your example. That's all fine. It works. I want you to keep doing that. Coaching, however, reinforces training and takes things to another level. Coaching is not the same as mentoring. When you are on a sales call, the salesperson is conducting the sales call, and as a coach, you're doing nothing except observing and taking notes. You're not saving the sale. You're not demonstrating anything. You're not there to answer questions for the customer. In fact, you defer those questions back to the salesperson. You're letting the customer know, I trust this salesperson's judgment, whatever they think is best. As a coach, the reason you're doing that, even if the salesperson makes a mistake, the reason you're doing that is because you're going to have a conversation afterwards to facilitate some learning and to use the pros and the cons, whatever went well, whatever didn't. You're going to use all of that to promote some self-discovery. You're going to have a conversation, and the conversation you have will follow a model. This is the Grow Coaching model. It's a classic. It comes from the pioneer of business coaching. His name is Sir John Whitmore. And I'll show you some samples of these questions in just a moment. But when you're coaching, you're not telling. You're not saying, here's what you did wrong, here's how to do it better next time, to see if the person understood what they did well and what they need to do differently. By doing this, even when you're not there, they get conditioned to ask themselves those questions and to grow faster and to be able to really pinpoint what needs to be replicated and what needs to be adjusted, and then to seek the help necessary to make those changes. So when you're coaching, you have a goal. You probably walked into the sales call with this goal already in place. Maybe the goal was to be more effective at recognizing buying signals and going to the close. And then after you have a goal in place, you discuss the reality of the situation, what happened, what didn't happen, what obstacles are there. Given everything that you know, we now move to the options of our GROW model. Given everything that happened here, what are you going to do next to continue to improve, to continue working on that goal that you set? And you're not going to do it as a sales manager. You're not going to do it as a mentor, and you're not going to do it as a coach. Coaching is all about the other person, the salesperson, even a new hire salesperson, figuring out for themselves how to work on this and make it better. Now, you can certainly give some ideas, right? You don't have to put on a coach hat forever. If they're stuck, you might suggest to them that they access you for some role playing, or that you can help them find some appropriate training or some other resources. But it's still up to them to pick one of those options and to commit to it, to get all the way to the W, to plan what's next and how they're going to execute to reach that goal. So here are some samples, rather than make it theoretical, but here are some of the kinds of questions that you might ask. Let's use that same scenario. If I were coaching someone and we had walked in to the day of sales calls where they were going to try to recognize buying signals and close more sales, I observed all day long. Now I'm having a conversation at the end. I might remind them of the goal. Your goal, as I recall, was that you wanted to recognize buying signals more frequently on the spot, and then move to close when you saw those buying signals. So how did it go today? What buying signals did you recognize? What went well in that sales call? What prevented you from achieving your goal? I wrote down some notes. I heard the customer say this. Was that a buying signal? Oh, yeah, you're right. I agree. I think it was. At the time, did you recognize it? What prevented you from recognizing the goal at that time? Next time you hear something like that, what could you do to not be as nervous and to be able to recognize that buying signal and then act on it? What would you need between now and then to get better prepared? Okay, good options. Out of those options, which one will you decide to work on first? And when would you like to report back to me and tell me how that's going? See, I'm not telling anything. I'm facilitating a conversation. I'm extracting from the salesperson the plan they want to put together for themselves, because when they put it together for themselves, they get really, really committed to it. It's not optional. The goal is that they will recognize more buying signals and close more sales. The question, though, is just about getting what they need to do that. And I give them, as a coach, I give them autonomy and permission to do that. You'll decide what mode you want to be in. Are you sales manager telling people what to do? Are you mentor showing them what to do? Or are you coach extracting from them what they're going to do to solve the problem? You have options. And I put all of that here in this presentation about onboarding because I want you to think about holistically the relationship that you're going to have with any new hire. How are you going to show up for them on day one? How are they going to be able to rely on you to meet those expectations so that you're showing them how to be successful, giving them a sense of belonging? How are you going to put all of that together so that you do manage sales, but at the same time you're leading people? That's the ultimate goal here. Last call for questions. If you have any questions to post for me, now's the time. If you're listening to this presentation on demand or think of questions later, please be in touch with me. You've got the website on screen. I gave you my email address in the presenter to audience announcements, I believe. It's deb.calvert@peoplefirstps.com. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Sign up for our newsletter because there every single week are multiple content pieces we give you at no cost to help you be more effective as a leader, as a sales manager. Thanks for being here today. I appreciate it, and I'll look forward to hearing from you in the future.